Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Saints are going to open up training camp. They'll report on Tuesday and open up camp out in Irvine, California on Wednesday. Going to be odd. Remember, no fans allowed at camp off-site, so when the Saints come back to New Orleans for those final few practices, they will have some open practices, one at Ullman. We'll look forward to that. But it's just going to be a bit of an odd training camp for the Saints, being that they are so far away, almost like those years when they were at the Greenbrier. I got asked over the weekend if I thought the Saints going to a more moderate temperature was kind of making them soft, like those years they were at the Greenbrier, and they went 7-9 back-to-back years. Maybe, and I do obviously have talked plenty to guys who were on those Saints teams, like Scott Shanley, our buddy, who, that 06 camp out in Jackson, Mississippi, Sean Payton's first, that they said was like Junction Boys type stuff. But remember also, that was a time in the NFL where you could have two-a-day practices. That doesn't exist anymore. The CBA has eliminated a lot of that stuff out of there. And there's also really good franchises that exist in mild weather climates that have practice and do pretty well. I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs, they're pretty good. They're not sweating it out in 120-degree temps in South Louisiana. So I think it's more of an issue for the Saints as far as their roster and getting older and just not being what they were during their heyday. And one of those players that we're keeping an eye on, obviously, is going to be Alvin Kamara. We're waiting to see if Kamara is going to show up for training camp. Remember, when the Saints were having minicamp back in June, Kamara left minicamp early. It was an unexcused absence. He was out there working, doing stretching, and then just left. And so, as Kamara and the Saints have had this contract dispute ongoing, there's this lingering question to whether or not Kamara will be out there. Now, we have seen Alvin Kamara on his social media post photos of him in the Saints uniform, seem to be an ode or an sort of homage or something to him being out there and loving the franchise and all that stuff. And he is beloved. I mean, he's the most explosive player in the history of the organization. He's the all-time touchdown leader. He's a Saints Hall of Famer, and he's been magnificent. I've loved watching Alvin Kamara, but I've also been very clear in my feeling on Kamara. Each of the last 3 years, you've seen his production decline. He's a running back pushing 30 in an era where running backs that hit 30 fall off a cliff. Again, the production is trending that way as well. And in 2025, Kamara's got a massive cap number, $25 million, but none of it is guaranteed. So he very well would likely be a cap casualty next year, unless they agree to some type of lesser number team friendly deal. I can understand Alvin Kamara wanting more money, more security, and the opportunity to stay with the New Orleans Saints, but I also understand from the Saints standpoint, you're not going to extend a player, an aging, declining player, no matter how great he's been in the history of your organization. So I don't know where the common ground is there with Alvin Kamara, but the giant question is if he's going to show up. By the way, Nick Underhill, NewOrleans.football, had this report earlier on Monday about Kamara.
As far as I've been able to find out, not a whole lot of progress has been made behind the scenes on his next contract. Now, Kamara has made this an issue because he left the last day of minicamp and let people know through back channels that he was looking for a new deal. So for him to be available at the start of camp, it would theoretically seem like he needs that new contract. But is it going to come? And what is actually Kamara's leverage if he does not get the new contract? This is a situation that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out because Kamara right now is 29. Next year, he's going to be 30. So getting a long-term deal might be difficult, but he's going to try to figure out how to get that done. And depending on where that conversation stands when Tuesday comes around, he may or may not be on the field.
Nick Underhill, again, NewOrleans.football with that report. Good work there by Nick. Make sure you follow all the guys on all their socials. The thing that Nick said is about Kamara not having much leverage. He really has no leverage. I mean, he doesn't have any guaranteed money on the contract next year, and he is a declining player. I mean, the only way, potentially, that Kamara regains any leverage is to go play this year and play really well. That's it. The Saints don't have to move on this, and they shouldn't. You signed Jamal Williams last year. You drafted Kendre Miller. You have prepared for the inevitability of Kamara's exit, whenever that may be. It's inevitable. Like every player, ultimately, their career ends. They've prepared for it. So Kamara has no leverage. But I think that's one of the 5 biggest storylines in this Saints training camp. Amuse, could you give me some NFL music, if you would? I'd like to run through, for me, my 5 Saints training camp storylines. And I think this is in no particular order. And feel free, if you feel if there's something else I'm missing, let me know. We'll start with the Kamara holdout, right, which is where we just talked about. Will Alvin Kamara be there? If he is, great. Would love to see Alvin Kamara in camp, trying to make the most in this Kubiak offense. If, in fact, you can make Kamara into the Christian McCaffrey role of this offense, magnificent. Don't know if I believe that can happen at this point in Kamara's career, but if it could happen, that's going to be one of the linchpins to making this offense go. Oh, do you have the little countdown numbers?
No, but I did get a sound effect.
Okay, there we go. I like it. Sound effects are good. How about 3 new offensive line starters? That's probably the most critical camp storyline. Hurst is retired. Pete is no longer a member of, he's now in Las Vegas, and Ryan Ramchik's career may be over. So you're going to have 3 new starters on your offensive line. How does that work out? Will Trevor Penning win the starting right tackle job? Will Taliesin Fuanga win the starting left tackle job? Will Nick Staldiveri, your 4th-round pick of a year ago, win the left guard job? Don't know. Will it be some of the free agents you brought in? A guy like Lucas Patrick, who I'm pretty high on. Or will Oli Udoh win one of the jobs? I don't know. But you got 3 jobs on your starting offensive line up for grabs. You got to figure that out here in training camp. That's probably the single biggest question as the Saints move through camp. Who's going to back up Derek Carr? Quarterbacks are always going to be interesting, but you've had Jameis Winston there. Like, we knew Jameis was in that role. Winston, Dalton, however it was going to be. Winston last year, Winston behind Breeze. This hasn't been a question of who. Now it's a question of who. You drafted Spencer Rattler this year. You drafted Jake Haener a year ago. Because of the draft capital you invested, you're likely keeping both those guys. God bless you, Nathan Peterman. You're not going to have a job in a few months, or a few weeks, I should say. But which is it? Is it Haener, who was really good in the offseason, or Rattler, who probably has the higher ceiling among the two? Giant question in training camp. Is Peyton Turner done? I mean, this is it. This is the last hurrah. You took him with a first-round pick. When he's been on the field, he hasn't even really been that productive. The bigger problem is he hadn't even been on the field. Former first-round pick, like, this is it. If you don't make an impact in camp, they're probably not even keeping you on the roster because of the move to go out last year and draft Isaiah Foskey, and this year to bring in Chase Young, along with paying Carl Granderson. You've still got Cam Jordan as well. Tano Passanio injured might open the door, but like, there's a real chance that Peyton Turner doesn't even make this team if he can't show some progress here in camp. And draft busts. Trevor Penning, are you a draft bust? Peyton Turner, are you a draft bust? Isaiah Foskey is a healthy scratch most of his rookie year. Saints have invested a lot of early round capital on these linemen, who I think in this camp we're going to find out if they have any NFL future with the Saints organization. All right, there's 5 storylines I'm looking for as the Saints report on Tuesday and begin practice out in Irvine on Wednesday. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.